Hello everyone, how are you doing? It's C J.Atemo right here on In the Chamber as well. This has become something else. You know, the kind of guests that we have, the conversations that we have, the authenticity of the stories that we get, absolutely amazing. Every time I sit over here, I go back pinching myself like, was that real? Because they come here and they get really real. Today I've got my guest, Steve Nyabwa. Those of us who are in a very different generation, I'm not saying he's old, but if you're in a different generation, you probably would remember him from those days on TPF. But we can't keep him there because the man has evolved, he's grown. You know, sometimes people keep on for 20 years, they say ex-TPF. Sometimes people don't think that something else has come out for somebody, right? But I've got Steve Nyabwa today. He's a musician, he's a businessman, he's a husband, he's a lot of things. But even before we get in the conversation, I need you to share the stream right away. Go ahead and share the stream. If you've not subscribed, subscribe to the YouTube channel for such and even much more. Steve, it's good to have you here, man.
Thank you, man. It's an honor to be here, man.
Yeah.
I am sitting on a great chair.
Well, great in the sense that you're a great man sitting on a chair.
The people that have sat on this chair are great. So
yeah,
I'm humbled.
It's good to have you. It's good to know that you're doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, man. God has been good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You're a businessman. You're a musician. You know, let me tell you, Steve, today I'll confess on this particular platform. For a very long time, I was debating and I was arguing. No, this is not the Steve who was on TPF. Because when you're on TPF, you're a bit lean, but you had this voice and you were doing all this crazy stuff. You know, you coming up over there, then everybody's screaming and stuff. So there's a time I was arguing with people who were close to me. I said, that's not the Steve who was on TPF. Yeah. How have you grown from that time, man?
A lot has happened. Yes, I was younger. It's 10 years now.
10?
Yes, 10 years now.
Okay.
2010, Tasker Project Fame. That's when we were. So 10 years ago, I was single. You know, I was in between jobs.
Yeah.
You know, I was a bachelor, and of course, I was eating crisps and water for dinner. You know, and breakfast was whatever the lady at the shop had.
Okay.
And of course, in these 10 years, a lot has happened in terms of my life. I got married to an amazing woman who makes sure that I have to eat, even when I don't want to eat.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the frame...
And that broke people's hearts, man. Because I remember you would come to the stage, and before you sang, there's all these people screaming everywhere, man. So you broke people's hearts.
I didn't. I just did what I think was good for me at the time, because I think one of the things about having been on Project Fame and coming out is it's very difficult to find people who are real with you. And I think one of the reasons why I chose to be with my wife now is because of how real she was.
Okay.
And I needed so much what she was to me at that point, more than anything else that any scream could do. So, as much as breaking hearts, was what was in vogue at that point. I think for myself, when we interacted with my wife, one of the first things that I noticed about her is that she was very honest and sometimes brutally honest, which is something that I felt that I needed to help me get to the next level.
And not many people recognize that, especially when they begin to get famous. They don't recognize that they need somebody else who grounds them, right? And you, at that particular point, even though you're saying you were young, but you still recognize that you needed somebody who tells you stuff straight, not just somebody who's going to pamper you. Talk about how that stage, though, what that stage did to you, the platform, Tasker Project Fame. What did you discover about yourself at the particular point?
One of my biggest learnings from Tasker Project Fame is television has power. I left Project Fame. I went into Project Fame, you know, just like a boy of the hood, you know, and came out as somebody that everybody would want to be associated with. That would be the shopkeeper, you know, the people who used to sell us vegetables. Like everybody would be like, man, this is our Steve. So one of the things that I really learned about that season is there's a lot of power with television. Number two, I learned through the process of Project Fame and after, that when you're on the spotlight, people don't know you,
right,
and they love you for what they think you are. But it's very easy to get so engrossed in what the people know as opposed to who you are.
right.
And if you don't have people around you who can help you ground yourself and be a normal human being, it's very easy for you to have that stuff going to your head and you completely lose what it is that life is about. So the process throughout leaving Project Fame and of course where I am today has been just lessons and lessons and lessons. The importance of mental health for somebody who people will talk about positively and negatively to your face online. So the power of having a positive mindset and knowing yourself, I feel, is key for anybody who gets themselves or finds themselves like we did in a place where everybody knows you and everybody has an opinion about what you're doing.
Man, because everybody was watching.
Yes, and everybody has an opinion about what you're doing. Everybody's like, oh, no, Steve, you should do this. You should not do this. Why are you doing benga? You should be doing gospel. Why are you doing gospel? You should stay on benga. So, if it's very easy for you to get lost in all that noise.
All right.
Yeah.
And how would you then deal with the attention as well? Because, man, you were young.
Yeah.
And then you've got all these people,
Yeah.
the attention. You're talking about people want to associate with you,
Right.
from the shopkeeper to the person on the street to the people that you just meet. How would you deal with this attention without losing yourself?
I think for me, when I left Project Fame, the first 1 year, I used to do a lot of work with the brand Tasker.
Right.
And a lot of that work involved a lot of protection for us, the people who were in the limelight then. So the interactions would be very structured.
Okay.
So everything that you ended up doing, you would do in the presence of somebody else.
All right.
Now, of course, with the fame, which was not what we expected, there's a lot of freebies and a lot of, for lack of a better word, I'll just say freebies. There's a lot of things that come, and of course, as a young person, you will end up making a few mistakes here and there.
Okay.
And like I said to you before, one of the reasons I got attracted to my wife is she sat me down and said to me, listen, I don't know you, but I know about you and I know about the things that you're potentially able to do. As somebody who manages brands, this doesn't look good on your portfolio if you ever want to represent any brand. Okay. So she brought me to a place of looking and seeing that, you know what, there's actually another way of doing it. So after those conversations, and I think just sitting down with myself and saying, well, fine, when I went into Project Fame, what is it that I wanted to achieve? Was it to be famous? Right. Or was it to use what it is that Project Fame gave me to live a better life than what I was living? Right. And to live that better life, there were certain aspects of my life that I had to change. So the interactions with fans would be very, structured. So, say hi, take a picture, thank you so much, and try and get yourself out there, out of that place before you do something that you would regret later. Because I'll tell you, for free, it is very easy for you to get.
It's very easy.
Yeah.
But then how do you still maintain an authentic self? Because now you need to protect yourself.
Right.
But there's some times when you just feel like you want to be Steve.
Right.
You just want to hang out.
Yeah.
So how do you still keep
I'll tell you what. One of my wife and I's biggest. We love live bands.
All right.
I've always loved live music. So that's benga, as Congolese. I'm a big fan of live bands. Right. I used to follow Kidum everywhere with my wife. I used to do so much of those. Okay. So it got to a point where it was impossible for you to go anywhere and actually just, like you're saying, just be Steve, just sit back and relax. Yeah. So one of the things that we did, I think, after some time was say, listen, we can only do this so many times because most of the time when you do it, then it becomes a labored process. Right. So you've left the house and you're like, let's go have some fun, have some lunch, eat some nyama, and listen to a live band. By the time you leave there, the whole process has changed because, of course, my wife would be like, okay, fine, who is this girl? Who is she? Because it's very hard. It's very hard for somebody who has not experienced that life to come into it and understand what it is. You see, for my wife in the initial, she would not understand why somebody would say hi to me and I don't know them. Because it's a different mindset. Yeah. So in fact, one of our biggest moments when we were dating was that I was not being honest about the people that would say hi to me. Because as a public figure, there's certain things that when somebody says hi to you, you cannot refuse to say hi back, and you cannot refuse the things that they're giving you. So it was very difficult for me to explain to her in the initial what this is, because I mean, you would be in the supermarket, somebody would say hi to you,
and
say,
sometimes because they know you, they think you know them back.
Exactly.
They come smiling.
Yeah, they come hugging, you know, and then what would happen is, I feel like sometimes when you're in that space, people don't really understand that you're a normal human being.
Right.
So they will ignore the other person, and you know, like, so initially it was a bit of a hail, right. But then, I mean, graciously enough, we were able to figure out a way to make it work for her and to work for me. So for right now, I mean, when I feel like being Steve, you know, we'll go out of town, you know, or go somewhere where it's secluded and just have a time for ourselves and just be quiet, because really at the end of the day, when the pressure is there on, you really cannot stop yourself from wanting to have a break.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that break from time to time is very important for us. And I think that's probably some of the things that keep me centered. My wife is very, like I said, very straight shooting. So she helps me to keep myself grounded.
Right.
Yeah, because it's very easy to lose everything that you have worked so hard for by virtue of making a decision based on, like I said, those freebies and those opportunities that present themselves. Right. I mean, I don't sing as much now. You know, I'm not in that phase where, of course, there's people screaming and all that anymore. Yeah, yeah. But of course, even
I want us to do a song with you soon.
Of course, I mean, the blessing that God gave me is still there. I feel like it's still there. Yeah. You know, so I mean, a song can be done anytime. We'll just plan for it.
The group that you were with, and I asked this a lot, because I had an interview I had an interview with Nonini.
Right.
I asked him, his generation,
right.
Most of them are not in music right now.
Right.
And most of the people that we watched with you guys on TPF, it seems like they didn't go the musical direction. Right. What happens, man? Is it disillusionment?
I think, okay, when you get into Project Fame, I think one of I will speak about my personal experience. One of the things that you feel you're getting into is an opportunity for you to be a great musician.
Okay.
And there's this whole set that has been designed for you to make you look great. But then when you leave Project Fame, and God forbid you don't win anything, okay, you go back to whether it was 50 bob in your account, you go back to that 50 bob in your account. Of course, there is a journey that, of course, the brand Tasker helps you grow as a person by giving you gigs. So everything that happens around that time that involves the brand that you represent takes you along. So one of the things that you probably do not have, if you don't have financial management skills, you'll blow that money away. Remember, there's a lot of freebies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So with freebies, of course, you have to spend money. So girls are available. You know, alcohol is available, but then you have to spend money to have all these things that you want to have. Yeah. So money comes, but then it easily goes. And unfortunately for our society, and I think how the music industry is structured in Nairobi, in Kenya, mostly is, it's very difficult for you to invest and actually have a guaranteed return from that music. So, like for myself, I did a lot of music in the first year. I mean, I recorded songs, I went into studios, different kinds of studios. But one thing I never really got was I didn't feel like anything that I recorded was good enough for me to put out there. Okay. So you end up spending so much money. Then you look at what return is coming, you're like, it doesn't make sense. So you get into a space where you just take a financial decision and say, okay, fine. I'm investing this much money and it's not bringing anything back. What else can I do with what I have? Right. And then, unfortunately, when you start doing the other things, then the music suffers.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, for me, it was more a life decision. Like, okay, fine. My house is getting locked. I'm not able to pay my rent. And there's this other thing that I can do that can be able to at least stop those things happening. So I think some of those decisions for a lot of artists is you get yourself in this space, you're famous. And if you're not mentally strong, you're probably going to get depressed.
You know, Reason, you talk about depression, and this year, during this COVID season, one of the finest talents that ever walked through TPF, this guy came out and said, you know, I was homeless.
Right.
He was nearly depressed, you know, talking about sleeping on the street or sleeping with a watchman somewhere over there. Right. I mean, when somebody has hit the top like this, and now they've got to live on the street, and it's not just that particular gentleman. There's also a guy who was all over our TV stations for years. And then now people have to, you know, donate money, contribute money so that this guy can even have one camera.
Yes.
Steve, how are we supposed to cushion ourselves with this? Because you've had your wife,
right?
You've talked about her role.
Right.
She actually began like managing you like a brother.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
But how are we supposed to cushion people who hit highs,
right.
or they have this false high?
Right,
right. You know, because the stage is set,
right,
everything,
right.
people are gathered,
yes.
Publicity is done,
yes.
You're sent to press conferences,
right.
So they have a false high.
Right.
Then you come back to this reality. How are we supposed to cushion?
I will say this. For anybody who has something that has presented itself to them, that gives them that opportunity, like you're saying, to have a false high, because most of it is a false high.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't have that grounding, I'm lucky because my wife was my grounding.
Right.
You know, from when we started dating, the first day I met her, there's things she told me that brought me back to earth. Okay. Because the bottom line is this: everything that you experience on the outside of your house is a false high.
All right.
Because it is only available to you at that point when you're relevant.
Okay.
And you won't be relevant forever. You know, for our case, we got into TPF. After 1 year, there was another group. Ruth Matete and the group came in.
Yeah.
So we're no longer the guys who were in TPF
right.
Last year. So there's a new group that has come in. So if you don't figure out a way to keep yourself relevant and grounded, then you move on.
Right.
Guys move on to the next big thing.
When you talk about relevance, Steve, that's one of the hardest things
right.
for people who are on the stage
right.
to keep. So sometimes then people have to do so many things
right.
to remain relevant.
Right.
When we were younger, so there was this good girl called Mariah Carey.
Right.
Came in, good country girl singing. She's wearing dresses
yes.
and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
To remain relevant over the years,
yes.
There was such a huge transformation.
Absolutely. You have to be dynamic, because you see, like, I can't put my finger down and say that I'm only going to be a musician because that is a platform that TPF gave me.
Right.
TPF gave me a platform to be known.
Okay.
What can I use with that platform to ensure, one, that I stay relevant,
right.
and number two, I stay sane? Because sometimes, if you're mentally not, you don't have enough mental support for yourself. And I'll tell you what, it's very difficult to be in the public eye.
Right.
It is very difficult. I experienced it, I mean, at the height of my fame, maybe for 1.5 years. And I can tell you, it's not easy. The pressure is real. And I feel pain for some of the people that are in the public eye now, because it's even worse.
Yeah.
Because what happens now is you have 1 million or 2 million followers.
Right.
All these 2 million followers have an opinion about everything that you do. Anything that happens in your life is broadcasted.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to make any mistakes, because any mistake you make is a problem for probably 90% to 70% of those people that you're following.
Right.
So being famous is not easy, but in that not being easy, everybody needs a support system. And I feel like a lot of the people that are in the public eye, even people that we went on Project Fame with, a lot of them did not find that support system. And that's why you find a lot of them fizzle off from everything. I mean, they're not in music, they're not anywhere, because you always stay on that false high.
Right.
And for you to stay on that false high is a lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Because you'll find, like, I mean, you can't pay your house.
Right.
The best thing to do about it, like what Alvan did, is just come out and say it, because me being famous doesn't mean I'm rich.
Right.
Being famous doesn't mean you're rich,
right.
especially in the African setup.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're rich. People just
But
know
you know, man, when you're on TV, people think you can solve all problems. You can get them all kinds of jobs. Everybody who needs a job thinks you have the connections for the jobs. You need to be on every fundraising committee.
And that is the pressure that a lot of people allow to dictate their life. So you find yourself starting to do this, doing that, because there's so much pressure for you to live up to those expectations, when really all you need is to provide for yourself and for your family, and everything else is secondary.
Right.
You know, because when you start making yourself the person that has to cater for 1 million people's needs, then it's impossible. It's impossible. That it's too much pressure.
It's even hard to lead just 5 people. No, even just one.
Even leading yourself is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you always need to get somebody to slap you back to reality. So I feel like people take on too much pressure because of staying in that false high.
All right.
Yeah.
Steve, you're running a business right now in Lavington.
Yes.
Is that Lavington? Yes, it is Lavington.
Yes.
You know, that was so huge.
Right.
Like moving from entertainment to running the business that you're running right now, which
Right.
is the car wash and stuff.
Yeah.
This is not something that is out there in the public. It is
Right.
not what would look like it is glamour.
Right.
Um,
Right.
But you have to make certain decisions.
Absolutely.
It is not what would look like, you want to say that I'm running this fashion house or whatever, something that has to do with image.
Right.
But then
Right.
you have wealth to create, not just bills to pay.
Right.
Do you think that we have enough people right now? You've talked about people not having support, but again, I want to ask, do you think we have enough people who would help the people who are on the stage right now to make the kind of decisions that you made? Do we have those mentors? Do we have those strong people? Are you becoming part of that group that would go back and tell guys, look, I know that you have these, your 1 million followers, they're not paying your bills.
Right.
Start something,
Right.
and it doesn't have to be glamorous.
I mean, listen, I am open to any opportunity that God gives me to help somebody else.
Right.
Because when you see people crumble and they have so much within them, it pains me as a person because I can be a musician, but I can also be a motivational speaker.
Right.
I can also be an MC. So there's so many things that are inside people who have talent. God has given people, some 5, some 10. People have skills.
Right.
And these skills are not put in you for them to just be dormant. So there's a business person inside me.
Right.
If music is not working, I cannot force myself to stay relevant in a place where my relevance has dissipated.
Right.
So what do? I reinvent.
Right.
What is the reinvention? Okay, fine. I have a passion for cleaning cars and detailing cars. How can I transform that passion into something that will give me a paycheck at the end of the day?
Right.
Yeah. So I will still use the platform that Tusker Project Fame has given me because I'm a familiar face. So if I say something, I'm able to get people influenced to do that thing. So in the detailing space, I think in Kenya now, Shine and Sparkles by far is probably the market leader in all things detailing.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, a lot of companies claim to do detailing, but they're not
as detailed
as Shine and Sparkles as a brand is, because we are focused on getting that international level detailing into this country.
It's very interesting because I think about how people would think you have been here.
Yes.
You have been at this level.
Right.
We talked about Alvin a bit. Let me combine my question. We talked about Alvin a bit.
Right.
And I would hear how this guy would be, an amazing cook. He talks about how he used to do that with his mother in Nakuru.
Yeah.
But sometimes now this person does not know how to go back into doing something like that, like start a restaurant, because you do not know whether people can reconcile the you that they saw and what are you doing in a restaurant?
Right.
Why are you selling? You are supposed to be this person.
Right.
And sometimes then we miss out on the opportunity
Yes, sir.
to make money
Right.
with certain gifts and skills and
Right.
abilities that we have,
Right.
because we're actually falling into the trap of that pressure. And there's so much giftings that we have on the inside. Now, talk to me about, you moved at some point to do gospel music.
Right.
At some point.
Right.
That transition, Steve. Weren't there people who were still seeing the shirtless Steve Tusker Project Fame? So now you're trying to raise your hand. Somebody's remembering you with your with your Sisal stuff.
I'll tell you what. I've always been a spiritual person. I mean, brought up in a very spiritual family. So religion has always been a very big part of my life. Even when I went into Project Fame, I was coming off the back of being a worship leader, for lack of a better word, for where I was. And it was a big problem for the church that I used to be in when I went to represent an alcoholic brand. So when I came back, we had this whole hullabaloo about me having gone, and of course the church was not very receptive to me coming back. And of course, like for every young person, for me it started a rebellion.
Okay.
And I think part of the rebellion, was, of course, doing all this secular music and doing all the secular gigs. But I think God has a way of allowing you to make your own mind,
Right.
So I went on that path for a while, and then there's a point where I started doing gigs, and I would find myself starting to pray before the gig. So everybody would come, I would get my slot, and before I started singing, I would pray on the microphone.
Correct.
So and it's a secular gig. So it became a bit of a conflict,
Yeah.
you know, and my bishop said to me, listen, when you're ready to leave, you know, leave, but there's no pressure for you to leave. So one day, I mean, he says to me, I want you to sing this song in church.
Yeah.
So, I mean, after I did the song in church, I mean, I went home and I asked myself, man, like, do I really want to be this person who's doing both worlds? Like, like, I'm either in or I'm out, you know, I'm either hot or I'm cold. So I was not doing conscious music, you know, so I could not say that it was possible for me to just ride the wave and keep doing it and still try and lead young people into the presence of Christ. So I think for me it was more a decision of what is it that I want to be known for? Do I want to be known for trying to, you know, go through that very faint line, or do I want to make the line very clear? So I feel that things of spirituality are spiritual, and they're spirit-filled. And if they're not spirit-filled, or the person who's doing it does not have that spirit, then they should not do it. Because then you lead people to the wrong spirit.
So you and I are not going to do a love song?
No, I mean, love song is conscious. I mean, that's part of life. You see, I mean, I can do a love song.
Ever since Barry White died, nobody has filled
no,
the
we can.
shoes, man.
And you see, that's the thing. I mean, just because I am a gospel musician doesn't mean I can't sing songs that are conscious.
Okay.
But of course, I will not sing filth.
Right.
You get what I mean? I will not do filthy music for the sake of being relevant. But then I will sing something that helps you, Pastor Chris, to have a good time with your wife. It's okay. You know, because this is part of life. I mean, you're not going to be in the bedroom listening to to Amazing Grace.
Are we going to see Catching Up with the Steves?
I don't know, man. No,
YouTube?
I'll tell you what. Willis is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And Willis wrote something that really resonated with my spirit. He said he does not blame the world for having opinions about his marriage, because he put his marriage to the world. So one of the things that I have slowly learned is the world will only comment on the things you allowed them to comment on.
That's right.
So I feel like there's a space and time for it, and there's people that are made for it. I personally do not feel that is something I would really want to pursue, because remember, I am coming off the back of understanding the challenges of being famous, and the challenges of putting yourself out there. You know, when you're famous, you put out yourself to any kind of opinion. So people are going to criticize you. There's people who will not like anything. The people will not like your beard. The people will not like your head. You know, so the moment you put yourself there, then you can't stop people from giving opinion. You know, because you've already put yourself out there. So I feel, I mean, man, no. No way.
Is it possible, Steve, you've talked a lot about your wife, and of course I know Lydia, but is it possible in this age to have thriving relationships off social media? Because it looks like if you're not on social media, then your relationship is not working.
Listen, man, I have been very big on social media, even with my relationship before, but then I took a back step, because a relationship is really about two people. The only reason I would put my relationship up there is if I want to help people. Now, the same people that you want to help are trying to poke holes into whatever it is that you have. And unfortunately, we are not perfect. So people will always find things that will allow them to poke holes. So I feel like when you put your marriage on digital, and I don't feel that every marriage is God blessed. There are people who get married for different reasons and everything. But then when you're in a relationship and you're serious about that relationship, whatever it is that the two of you agree as things within that relationship are better off than the things that you can probably get by putting yourself out on social media. Because digital, like I said, when you put yourself out there, people will have opinions. And sometimes that opinion will cut your feet to whatever it is that you were even able to help somebody with. When they look at you a certain way and say, oh, by the way, you can't give me any advice because ABC. Which, of course, again, is not a right context, because just because somebody has failed in something doesn't mean they don't have anything that is probably helpful for you.
True. Well, I want you to look at that cameraman. Give us your closing thoughts. And especially, I'm big on this, especially on the people who have just stepped into the digital spaces, either through music, arts, their relationships because there's this fame.
Right.
You know, now we don't have to wait for Tasker.
Yes.
You can just go on YouTube, you can go on Instagram, you can go anywhere and build your own fame.
Right.
And sometimes they don't have people who are really speaking into their lives. So I just want you to take a minute right there, give your thoughts to the people who are actually trying to be and are becoming famous on what they need to do to stay grounded.
As a person, I think, being famous is great. You have a lot of good things that go with it, but also with those good things comes a lot of negative stuff. It's very important for you as you push whatever it is that you're pushing and you get famous to stay centered. Stay centered and focused on why it is that you're out there. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And keep those things at the back of your mind every single time you go in front of a camera. Ensure that everything that you're putting out is stuff that you're actually ready for people to ridicule you about, because people will have opinions. Have a support system of people that keep you grounded, because you are going to get famous. But when you get famous, you need to still be a real person, because fame is not who you are. Right. It is part of what you do. So you became famous, but that's not who you are. Who you are is the person who is away from the cameras, that nobody knows about, without the makeup, without all the lighting and everything. That is who you are. So that person that you are in the core is the most important person for you to stay relevant. So stay relevant by staying sane and by being supported.
Wow. Well, the person that you really are is the person away from the cameras and away from the lights, man. These things, they can invade your life until you don't even know how to switch off lights in your own house, because you always want to have the light. That's all the time that we've had today in the chamber with Steve Nyabwa of the 2010 Tasker Project fame. But of course, he's running a business in Lavington, and that is where you need to take your car. Now, no matter where you live, we were talking about that earlier on, and I told him, a friend was trying to bring me to his cleaner place, and I said, I live so far on the other side. He said, yeah, he actually wants people who live from very far to come and try that. What's the location again, Steve?
We are located along Mudangari Road. The name of the place is Shine in Sparkles.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring your cars there, man. Bring your cars over there. Make your cars famous.
Right.
All right. Till the next time with C J.Atemo. Keep it right here. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel.